Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. Another Neo Geo 1FZ. This again is from Mike Pearman. He sent this as spares for the other ones actually. He's still got the battery on here. You can see a little bit of corrosion around there, not a lot. I've put a unibias on, there was no BIOS with this. Tested it with the diagnostics, all tests passed. So I've come to test it with the cart. It's showing a crosshatch, I'll show you that in a sec. There's no I0 because I was kind of thinking maybe the I0, because I think, if memory serves, it controls the prog select lines and things. I could be wrong. Yeah, see an F0 here, an E0, C1, D0, ZMC. So yeah, there's no I0. Nevertheless, I think what I'm going to do, I'll show you what it's doing, obviously cross-hatching, and then I'm just going to clean up the cartridge and the cart slot, because that's going to be the first thing, but also just inspect the back of the cart bridge here, and just inspect the underneath of the board here as well. It's got a replacement through-hole cap there that shouldn't really be there. I can swap that out for an SND one later. Just check for any pins short, and you can see those ones on the amp there are pretty close actually. But what would cause this to crosshatch? Well, you'll get a crosshatch when the 68K can't communicate with the prog bus properly on the cart. You know, you've got a bit missing or something. That could be from a trace connection, could be connection between the bottom board and the bridge here. On some boards like the MV-1A, you've got the a Neo buff that sits in between. Other boards you might have some 74245s that sit in between. So those are the sort of causes. On this, I don't think there is anything there. There might be a 245. Thinking about it, somewhere on this board well, you'd need two because it's 16-bit. So yeah, I think we can rule that out unless there are a couple of 245s somewhere on here. I don't quite remember. It's not a fault I've had to look at on one of these 1FZs before, so yeah, I'm not exactly sure at this particular point in time. And there you go, as you can see with the cart in, we just get a crosshatch. So I don't think this is going to fix it at all. I think it's just the first thing to check really, because we don't know how long this has been sat in storage, you know, because it was disassembled. You know, this top connector here was not, these connectors here were not connected to the board there, so we could well have some corrosion. Incidentally, while we're here, those are all just grounds. It's crazy really. I think from what I remember when I did connectivity testing on it could be on a 1A I'm thinking of actually, but there were, yeah, predominantly grounds. On this one it might be 5 volts on one side, ground on the other, or something like that, but that's what they seem to use the middle connector for. It's one of the reasons why on the newer boards you'll see they just got rid of it and just used 2 connectors here to pass all the other connections. And we'll do the same thing with the contacts on this side here. Sometimes if they are corroded, if you can see some corrosion, it's worth getting a little bit of very finely abrasive, you know, lightly abrasive sandpaper in there to try and deal with that corrosion, because there's awesome deoxit's your preferable thing, something like that, because obviously it's less abrasive. You know, you get a bit of sandpaper in there, you are roughing up the surface a little bit. If you use a very light, you know, fine grit sandpaper, you won't really damage it, but you should be able to remove the corrosion. And we'll give that a go now. We'll just see if that's made any difference. In fact, before I do that, I'll just fold some paper, get some IPA onto the paper, and just go in and out the cart slot a number of times here. So we'll clean the cart slot up with some folded paper. Just go in and out. Aha, we've made some progress, but we have an issue. So I'm thinking ZMC, I think. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking at this stage. I'll remove that cart, put it back in again, just to make sure it's okay. We could have something wrong with the fixed layer, but then wouldn't that be messed up? And I don't hear sound actually at this stage either, that's strange. Maybe again it's a bad connection on the cart, I'm not sure. Yeah, you're not going to be able to hear me over the blooming noise. Turn it down a bit. I think it's a cart slot thing, because a minute ago we had next to no graphics at all. It was really bad. See that there? That was messed up. And we had no sound. And after unplugging and plugging it back in a number of times, See, we've got no sound there now. We got sound back, and some of the colours and things came back, some of the graphics came back. I'm not sure if this is just a really dirty, corroded, oxidised slot. You can see what we've got now. We've got some little speckles around, and we've got some PCM issues, but actually it's getting better. Every time I clean it, it's getting better. I think it's just like really badly oxidised. Got the jingle there. There could be a PCM issue, maybe that's the issue. That final thing with speckling pixels. Yeah, that thing with the speckled pixels could just be the slot. Let me try reseating it again. Well, I've made some progress. It's the cart slot. I can show you that. You can see we get reasonable graphics there. It might mess it up, it might not. It's okay there, we've got sound. I suspect the PCM is going to go crazy maybe then. Be lucky if it doesn't. Yeah. And if I just move the cart, watch this, just a little bit, see the graphics go all over the place. That's the sort of behaviour we saw before. You can get it so it crashes and it can't see the program code. It's the slot, and I'll show you. I just didn't notice it when I first looked. When I said it's not perfect, on the closer inspection you can see the pins are bent in a place, not bent, but they're flattened, like they've been pressed super hard. I don't know how it's happened. Maybe it's had an awful lot of use, this slot, I don't know. But what I think I can do is remove the socket and take one of the ones off that junk MV-1A in the previous video, hopefully to get this one working. Yeah, so not what I expected at all, and this has got nothing to do with cleaning technique or anything. Can you see, let's say look at that pin there, can you see how high up it is compared to these? It's like it's, you know, if you get something fine into the edge there, let me just see if I can show you, you can see that. I can push it down to its position where it should be, let go, it goes back up again. And there's quite a lot of those on both slots actually. See down here, some of these are super low, some of them aren't, that one's high, that one's low. That's the problem. Yeah, so this is the one from the 1AX. The interesting thing there is it's got a chip, hasn't it, so I can't just swap the whole thing over. Well, I might give it a try. I don't know, I might be able to bypass that, depending on how it's wired. It's just whether these are wired exactly the same. I mean, it's the same type of connector there if you look at it. And the placement on here is the same, you know, it's got the same type of socket exactly. So you can see the difference if you look at the top here. They're all in a straight line. None of them are out of position on either. This one, yeah. I suspect what's happened here, someone's had a bad connection, right, and I think they've started using pins and sticking a pin in, try and bend them. That's what I think's happened with this. Because I fail to see how random pins could go up and down like that. That's just bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. But that is the problem. I'm going to put a new jammer connector onto this jammer Supergun, because you can see it's cracked here, and you know, it's gone sort of wide. You know, instead of remaining quite tight like that, it's bulged in the middle. Sorry, the cats are destroying the place here. So I've got a replacement jammer connector here. Hopefully that's the right number of pins, I think it is. So I'm just going to get the desolder station onto this and remove all the solder, and we'll replace it. I can always cut it off, I guess, but I might try and keep the connector. I can always epoxy the side there or something and just keep the connector as a spare for something else, you know. But I don't like the way it's widened in the middle there. So to get this off, I'm going to use the E-Nasty desoldering station here. It does work quite well actually. I shouldn't really call it the E-Nasty, but it is pretty cheap and nasty. Good God, that's not even melting. Could be tricky to remove this just because of the nature of the type of, you know, the way the contacts sort of sit over the board there. So like I can't get all the solder off there without increasing the temperature. Let's put the temperature up. Yeah, you see the ground plane there's huge. It's probably the entire sort of outside of the PCB. Might have to cut this off, I don't know. Or use hot air to free it. There we go, that was painful. I managed to damage a couple of bits of the pads here. Incredibly difficult. I ended up cutting it off actually, so there was no way I was going to be able to reclaim that. I'm sure if I spent more time I could have got that off without doing the tiny bits of damage there, and I could have reclaimed the thing, but yeah, it should be alright. So I think what I'm going to do is, I don't know, use a ruler or something and just a flat surface just to bend these in towards each other a little bit so that it makes a slightly snugger fit there, and then just solder it on. Have you ever had one of those why did I start this moments? Yeah, I'm sort of in that position at the moment. I'm getting there, but yeah, it takes a lot of solder to flow these contacts actually, and the connector was perhaps not as flat with the PCB as it could be. It's straight, but I mean in terms of, you know, like flat with joined up so that you're not putting pressure on the pins here. But you know what, it was pretty cheap anyway. It cost me about 20 quid this Supergun a number of years ago. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it if it doesn't last that long. I could even just design something of my own, because it's not ideal really, nothing's buffered. You know, like the video is, well, there's probably a cap or something, a couple of caps. I don't even think there's caps for the RGB line actually, because I think I ended up putting those in my SCART lead. There we go, cleaned up, tested, it works fine. I'll show you, I'll just connect it up here, and it makes a really nice snug fit actually, it grips really well. If you just watch this now, there we go. Normally that would just slide straight off, and it's staying stuck. Sweet. So just so you can see, these are desoldering super easy actually. There's one or two I've had to add a bit of solder on. But I think we're going to be able to get away with just replacing this one socket here. I think the other socket's okay actually. So there we go, came off okay. I got the SNK logo on these, very nice. No damage, a bit of a dull point there as you can see, but it's just a bit of solder on the top side there. If I can clean that off, it's not suffered any damage. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, as you can see, it was just a dull solder point there, but yeah, there's no damage there at all. So I'll take the one off the donor and we'll get that on and we'll give it a try. So I need to clean off the flux. One thing I will say is on this connect on the board here, the one that's used on the AX and the A, they bent the pins over. Can you see? They bent them over here on the corners, and as soon as you start to lift them, they snap straight off. It's almost like they're super thin, and with the heat that you need to melt them, the pins, you know, the top of the pin just shears straight off. I was absolutely shocked. But you can just, you know, there's enough of the stub there to, as you can just about see there, to solder onto, so it's not a problem. So I swapped out that bottom one, tested it, graphics are now absolutely solid, as is the M1. The PCM stuff is flaky as anything, so the top slot does need doing. So I've just removed, where's it gone? I've just removed the slot, the second slot there, from the AX bridge. So I'm going to desolder this one and swap that out just the same. Well, I'm not going to deny, swapping those slots out has been a nightmare. I had a cross hatch for ages, and there's a couple of damaged traces. They're things I've damaged actually when I applied a bit of extra heat to try and lift the pins, you know, the pins that were folded over. You can hear we've still got sound issues, but we've got stable video, there's no crashes, because previously we were getting watchdogs occasionally. Turn the sound down a bit, but you can hear I think it's the DAC. It's either the DAC or the 2610. So I'll inspect to see if there's any broken traces. Beyond that, I might just try swapping the DAC out first, because that's easier than swapping the 2610. But if you use the you know, M1 diag with a diagnostics ROM, the PSG stuff sounds normal. You don't get all this crackling. It's just on the PCM stuff. So yeah, I'm thinking the DAC. Well, after about 3 seconds of inspecting the board there, I found the problem. There's a gouge there, straight through that top trace. It might even be the one below it as well, I don't know. So I'll just measure continuity, but it's definitely a gouge, it's very deep. And we just need a wire from one side to the other. The final thing I need to do then is just clean up the solder work here. You can see at the moment I've got 2 quite long bodge wires on here. It's unfortunate really, it's probably it is my own fault for using too much heat
But if you remember, the pins were folded over. These ones that snapped off on the ends here, as soon as I applied some heat, they just broke straight off. They just came straight off with no pressure, no nothing. But we've got lots of blobby solder there that needs cleaning up. It's a mess. I am not proud of that at all. But it works. You know, we've got two decent slots on there that are hardly used at all now. And I think if we fix this brown trace here, it should be 100%. The board's in very good condition, actually. It's very clean, this board. There's just a bit of corrosion here, down here where my thumb is. You know, the copper is exposed and a big blob of solder. We need to remove the battery as well. I wouldn't leave that on there. And we need to swap out that cap and clean up the board. But yeah, I think there's hope for this one. So I've patched that trace up. Let's give that a go. Got a good feeling. I think that's going to fix it. Oh yes, there's another one fixed. Let's try it. So I need to, you know, fully play test this one as well. Test both controller ports out. But everything else looks alright, you know, with regards to diagnostics. Everything's passing, sounds okay. It's not stuck at the crosshatch now. We've got no graphical problems, no exceptions and crosshatch problems and stuff. So yeah, I think that's fixed. Nice easy one, that. Well, it was easy, apart from that cart slot was an absolute pain to do. It does look an absolute mess. But there's just the two damaged traces, and I'll show you where those are. I'll zoom in. It's the point where we had to heat here for an additional period of time because it was bent right over, and I was trying to lift it up, and obviously the reason you have to heat for an additional period of time is because it's connected to ground on the underside. It's not on this side. This side it looks like there's no trace going to that first pin, but on the other side it's the ground plane, so it absorbs tons and tons and tons of heat. And then obviously you have to lever the metal pin upwards, and it was that point that the two traces right next to it here just you know, came off the board, just broke. So yeah, what could I learn from that moving forward? Yeah, just to be a little bit extra careful when I'm trying to lift those pins there. Maybe use hot air and try and lift it with something else instead of using the desolder station to try and lever it while I'm heating it. I don't know. It's not the end of the world, you know. Generally, if you get away with no damage replacing both of these is fantastic, but if you're impatient or you have a problem like I did there where you've got some pins bent over that you need to somehow straighten up, if you're not careful, you know, that's what you're going to end up with, a couple of broken traces. But I'll secure these. I'll use a little bit of nail polish in a few places just to hold them down. I'll shorten them first, I think, and tidy up the solder points a little bit more. But yeah, I just need to get all the flux off first of all, because there's a ton of flux on there. So this is the pin. It was bent over. It was bent over these traces here, and obviously I had to, you know, try and get the surface of the desolder tool onto it and heat it at the same time as lifting it up. So as you lever, you're putting some pressure on the board here, and I don't know if you can see, it's these two traces here, they broke here. So yeah, I think what I might do is I might just scratch a little bit of the copper off. Well, I have on this side here, you can see. Scratch a bit over here, and I'm going to use a single piece of coil wire that's the same thickness as the trace, and just solder it on, and then I'll extend, you know, I'll scratch off a bit here on the second trace and a little bit further over here, and again use a piece of coil wire, because then I can just encapsulate that there with a little bit of that nail polish over those two traces, and we won't have these big long wires here. So I had to use extreme magnification there, but as you can see, micro surgery complete. There's a few hairs and things. I just need to brush this down with a brush in a minute. You can see some hair stuck there, but can you see I've got a trace from along the bottom there to there, and the one above it just there to there. So it doesn't look great up close, but bear in mind I'm going to stick some nail polish over that now just to protect it. But I'll clean off the hairs and things first. There's still a bit of flux, you can still see it here as well, so I'll just give that a final clean and then I'll protect it. So you can see the wire there for the connection on the 2610. I don't always secure them this way, and there's lots of different ways about doing something like this. I went from the tiny wire to the tiny wire here. I mean, they're super small. What I could have done is traced it to the pin on here, and traced this to the pin on here, and add a wire that way. But yeah, that'll be okay. I'll just leave that now. And there's two little blobs there that are not on the tray. You know, they're not on solder points and things. They'll just help secure that. I'll just leave that. And it should just help support that.
and it's the same thing up there, it's just holding that wire in place. I'll remove the battery and I'll just have a clean up on this board. I'll perhaps ground the crystal, something that I always do as well. I'm not going to go to the extreme of recapping all these. I would recommend to Mike, you know, he's the guy who sent me these boards, that he recaps them. It's just a time consuming ordering all the right caps and, you know, removing them, swapping them, but it's relatively easy to do. Once you get into the zone, you could fly through these and do them quite quick. And the final thing before I forget, we'll clean up this here, because I ain't sure what's going on there actually. It's a giant blob of solder on something. Is it on the cap leg or something? I think it might be. So yeah, that needs a bit of a clean up. Maybe a bit more protection is required on the tracers there, so I'll stick some of that nail polish there, and we need to swap that cap out. So I'll take one of the SMD 100 nanofarad caps off the underside of this spares board here. You know, you can see we used it for the previous MV-1A/X repairs. So I'll remove that cap, which gets some solder on there, and if we just heat both sides at the same time, should be able to just wiggle it out of position. There we go. The annoying thing with the batteries, you can see, they've bent the contacts over. That is going to be an absolute pain. It's not too bad. Yeah, I was going to say that the contacts are not very stiff, so I think the desolder station needs emptying, you know. I'm not convinced it's very well unblocked. So again, I need to bend this one up a little bit. It's not the easiest thing because it's quite flat on the board. I think what I'll probably do is just pull it through actually. I'll try and pull the battery from the other side. If we just heat that contact there we go, that side's out. And then we can literally just, yeah, you can't really see this, just pull it from the other side and it should, there you go, it's bending outwards, see? And you can see it starts to corrode a little bit on that side there. They don't leak like other batteries do, but they yeah, do need removing. I wouldn't leave it there. Now, whilst we're in the subject of the battery area, something that crossed my mind. Whilst we're in the area of the battery here, something that crossed my mind. One of the mods you can do to these, obviously, is to put you know, a CR2032 button cell on there, and then disable the charge circuit. And I think on most of these, you just remove like a resistor, 10k resistor or something that feeds the actual battery with the charge supply. And I think that does it. Now, the problem there, it was something I was just considering the other night, is if the charge circuit is not there and all you're powering the backup RAM with is the battery here, when that battery goes less than, I don't know, a couple of volts, you're into a latch-up scenario. You know, if your battery goes flat, you're into a latch-up scenario where your backup RAM will fail. So I don't know whether that's something considered when people have modded these or not. I'd need to have a look to see exactly how the circuits work in here, but I'm assuming that when this is charging the battery, at the same time it's powering the RAM. So if you removed the facility for that charge signal to go to the battery, if your battery's flat, your RAM is going to have a low VCC level. So yeah, I could be wrong, but I'd need to check to see exactly how that's wired. I'll perhaps do that later as a separate video. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on there. You can see I've removed the solder from where the cap leg was. The board just looks a state there. I'm not really sure what's what, so I'll need to have a little bit of an inspection of that with a magnifier. Yeah, so you can see I've cleaned up around here with cotton buds, but look at the state of that pad there. That was where the cap was through. There's a giant hole.
I think someone's not been able to unblock the solder there, and they've drilled through it, but they've used a really large bit, and you can see they've removed some of the coating off there, solid, to get some nail polish over that trace there, I think. But I'll try and clean that up as best as I can on that side. I'll just flip you over the other side. Look at the size of the hole there. That's scary. Yeah, someone's drilled that out. So again, I'll just clean up with a fiberglass pen, try and clean up this side a little bit, and see if I can get it a little bit tidier, and then I'll refit the cap. There we go, just swapped out that cap. So I'll go around and clean the top of the PCB in a second. Just get a bit of IPA around that glue there, and then it should, hopefully, with a little bit of a lift, come off. Yeah, there we go. We'll just straighten the can a little bit there, and we'll just scratch the can in the area I want to stick a bit of solder. And we'll do the same on the wire. You've got to rough it up, you know, you've got to have an edge that the flux can help bite into so that the solder can grip. And then we'll get a tiny little bit of flux there. Not a lot. And you can't quite see it from the capacitor there, but yeah, you can just about see what I'm trying to do here. Just add a little bit of solder. There, that's it. And just give that a gentle clean, because we had a little bit of flux around there, so yeah, that's okay now. So the final step here now is just to go around with cotton buds and collect the dirt. Can you see how dirty it is? It's black. This board is just black. So it'll take me a good 20 or 30 minutes, but I'll go around like this. I'll go on the top of the chips with you know, paper towel and IPA, get rid of any dirt on there. Any of these quad flat packs of stuff, I might just get the toothbrush with some IPA into there just to help clean them out. You know, you can get the pins looking super clean on these. Anyway, you've got crazy long pins like here on the audio amp. Maybe consider trimming them off. You could just straighten them out, but you know, these here, because it's on an amplifier, if any of these short, you're going to kill the amp probably, or you know, even worse, short out the supply rails to the system or something. Yep, I'd say that's working okay. So I found a mask ROM for this, and that seems to be working as well. Let's have a credit. Yep, sweet. So here's the board after giving it a bit of a clean up. You can see we've got mask ROM on there now as well. It's not too bad actually. I've removed all the glue from the caps here because you know, when the cap expands, as I mentioned earlier, the can can't vent that. I mean, some of these have not got vents anyway, you can see, you know, others have. But, you know, in general, they shouldn't really have glue on top of them. I'm not sure why, and SNK did that, just to secure them in, probably. So, yeah, we've got our solder blob there. I think I'll get a little bit of nail polish over those traces there, because whoever fixed those previously when someone else looked at this in the past, you know, they tinned them a little bit, but there's a bit in the middle there you can just see, it's a little bit coppery. So I'll get a little bit of the nail polish over there. But I think in general, that board's looking pretty blooming good, actually. I just need to just wipe the jammer connector, but it's looking good. It's looking good under here. You can see where I swapped out that cap there before as well. We got a little bit of nail polish here and tied it up around where that big blob of solder was. Bent the leg of the cap over there because obviously there was a giant hole. But just protected that area with a bit of nail polish on the bits where the copper had been scratched off. So yeah, I think we're good to go with that board. So I figure may as well use the housing from the MV-1A. It fits exactly. It's the same profile. So I'll get these sticky bits off, just give it a clean up, and I've got some replacement feet as well. We'll stick some new feet on there, and then it should be complete. Yeah, can you see it starts to peel back, whereas without that heat, that would all just sort of go into a gooey mess that everything sticks to. It's nearly impossible to get it off, but that is coming off now. Yeah, so this stuff's been upgraded to, you can't see it under there, Plast RX. The guy's Plast RX now. It's pretty much the same thing. It looks a slightly different shade of blue. It smells the same, and it seems to work just the same as well, so I'm not sure if they've improved the formula there or what. Strictly speaking, I could remove that number, but it's a piece of history. I'll leave it up to Mike to decide whether he wants to remove those, any of those numbers that are written in gold there. You can see how dirty it is though, look at that. There we go, most of the marks have been removed, all the glue. All that tape and stuff has gone off the back there and off the top, so I can stick that on there now, and I'll stick some new feet on it. I've got a nice acrylic enclosure actually for consolising the 1FZ, but the interesting thing is because the footprint's the same on the MV-1A and the AX, you could consolise one of those with the same shell, so I'll show that in a later video. It might be a while because I've just got so many things I'm trying to do here and things I've got to finish off. So I've got the screw through there, I'll just get the new foot on. Obviously it'd be better with the original SNK ones. Some of them were yellow. I know that because my 1FZ had yellow feet originally. It is really good they stuck with the same footprints, because it means if you've got a 1FZ and you've not got a shell, you can use the 1AX shell and vice versa. And there we go, she's got a full set of legs again. And I'm sure you're not going to be that interested, you're probably getting bored of seeing me maintain this blooming thing, but you see these resistors here, they wobble around so much, you know, if you're not careful when you're unplugging and plugging things in, you can bend them, and that's exactly what happened. I sheared off the one for the sink here last night, right in the middle of trying to test the final one of Mike's boards, so yeah, I had to swap it out. It was just a, I think 580 ohm resistor, as you can resistor there, you can see it's orange, white, brown, yeah, 580. So yeah, I had to swap that out as well. It's amazing, I've had a lot of wear and tear just from, you know, using this to look at all these different Neo Geo boards. These connectors don't last forever, and when you've got a cheap design like this, these components are really easy to break off. So I am sorry if you're getting bored watching Neo Geo repairs. I have got some Commodore stuff coming up. Please like, share and subscribe. I do hope you found the video interesting. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next video.